Good morning, Christina's World Kitchen. I'm Christina Martinez Williams, and I want to talk this morning about shifting from ignoring to awareness. So I don't know who else has done this or has been in a place in the past where you have ignored what is going on out of a need to cope, out of a coping mechanism, out of defense or remaining a little bit in control by ignoring. So that was me. I was ignoring, I would say choosing to ignore how I felt because I didn't think that it could change, or I was trying and it wasn't working. And so I thought I just had to accept where I was at. And in order to do that, in order to accept where I was at, where my body was at, which was mentally and physically uncomfortable, wearing my maternity clothes because my old clothes prior to pregnancies didn't fit, I chose to stop looking in the mirror because I had strangers asking me if I was pregnant when I wasn't. And so in order to cope, I chose to ignore, and maybe ignore isn't the best word, but I chose not to look at myself because it just reminded me of how I already felt. So as a way to cope with how I felt, and as a way to feel better in the moment, at least, or to cope, to survive, I chose not to look in the mirror. I don't know if anyone can relate to that because I wanted things to be different, but I didn't. I tried to move my body. I tried to eat differently. At that time, I didn't know how to eat differently. And so I was trying, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I stopped looking in the mirror to cope, to ignore what I was experiencing, what I was feeling, what I was seeing. I wasn't looking at it anymore. And I think that sometimes that serves us, and it was serving me because it was too hard. And when I didn't know anything different, or I didn't know how to make a shift, it was too hard. But once I became aware of how to make a shift, then I was able to shift away from that and see where I was at. And sometimes I've ignored something for so long that it's festered, it's gotten worse, but I've ignored it in order to cope. But once I become aware that I've ignored it and aware that there is a solution, there is a change that can happen, then that awareness helps me to take action. My awareness includes oftentimes some education. It includes some knowledge, and it includes also at a point where it's too much, like where I can't ignore it any longer, where it's rearing its head so much that I can't ignore it. So for me in the beginning, that was one of the things where I've done that in my life is with my weight, with my body fat, with my how I was feeling in my clothes. I was ignoring it because I thought I had to accept it. Because it hadn't changed, because I was trying to do the things and it didn't work. Those things weren't having the same impact that they had in the past when I was trying to do those things. So if you've ever been in a place of ignoring or of coping by choosing not to pay attention to something, that's what I mean by ignoring, not paying attention to it on purpose, been there, or maybe you're there. So if you're there, having awareness around, oh, yeah, I don't really want to be here. And there are solutions. I promise you there's solutions for all the places that you might be ignoring. And sometimes it takes too much time, too much effort. And so also I've been there too. It takes too much time, too much effort. And so I just continue to ignore it or not pay attention to it, to pretend that it's not there. But it rears its head, and moving to awareness can help you take steps forward, take action, take movement towards change. It steps towards change. And that is really important. That's really helpful. That is where shift happens. That's where growth happens. That's where progress happens. That's where success happens, is in after that shift from a ignorance, or not ignorance, but choosing to ignore, not pay attention to, a lack of focus on, to realizing, oh, this needs my focus, because if I don't focus on it, things are going to get even worse than they already are. If I don't make a change, my health is going to deteriorate even further. If I don't do this, I'm not going to have health long term, or I won't be here. Or I know that lots of people have been in that place in different ways. For me, it was I stopped looking at the mirror. But I had other people around me that knew that something better was possible for me, and that we're also advocating for that for myself, even when I wasn't doing that. And then I started to make shifts, and then I added things and tools into my life that helped me to make that. So I started eating high protein, low carb, and healthy fats. I started drinking ketones. I started doing intermittent fasting. I started moving my body with more consistency. I started drinking more water. I started changing my portion size. I started all of these things that then created this healthy habit space for me to see shifts and change. But it took me stopping and paying attention enough that I would make a shift, and stopping, and instead of just ignoring and continuing, not paying attention to it and continuing, making a shift that could make a change. But I had to be at a place where I was enough is enough, where I was tired of being in that place. And hi, Renee, I see you. So if you've been there, put been there. If you're there, put there. If you've made that shift, put did it, or tell me in the comments where you're at if you're open, or send me a message, and I would love to talk with you about that, because it's something that I wasn't even aware that I was doing at the time, although I was a conscious decision to stop looking in the mirror. So I was very aware that I was stopping to look at the mirror. Good morning. Tell me where you're watching from. Thumbs up, hearts, share this video. People need to hear so that maybe they can identify what is the thing. Usually we know because it's a slight decision sometimes. Sometimes it's an unconscious decision, and sometimes it's an actual slight decision that we're intentional about stopping to pay attention to that. And then it just accumulates and builds over time, and then we're at a place where we're at now. And then when we choose to stop, pause, make a shift, become aware, educate ourselves, and then shift and take action towards that shift, then things can change. And then you can show up the way you want to show up, and you can be different. So I want to give you hope that it's possible for things to shift. And I want you also to know that you're not alone if you have ever not paid attention to something that's like nagging at you, or that you really don't want, but that it's easier to just not pay attention to it and to keep life moving. It's often easier, even though it's creating poor health or poor habits or poor whatever. It's sometimes easier just to not stop and make a change, make a shift, because sometimes that feels a lot harder than just continuing to do what we're doing. But on the other side of it is a lot of freedom, is a lot of ability to feel better, is a lot of ability to see real progress, to make real progress. It's all possible. And I know all the tools. I don't know, maybe if I don't know all of them probably. But I've used so many tools, and I will support you in those. So I'd love to chat with you if that's something that you would be interested in, and support you in your journey. Because it's a journey. We're all on our own journey, and we're all in different places in that, and that's okay, and that's good. And I'm here to support. I hope you have a wonderful day. From my house to your kitchen, global flavors and healthy plates from around the world. Bye.